Hey, my magical moon muffins. I wanted to wish you a very happy Halloween and a happy Samhain. For those of you who are celebrating Beltane here in the Southern Hemisphere, happy Beltane. I personally just do not connect with the Sabbats in the Southern Hemisphere for a plethora of reasons. But I still feel like the veil is very thin, and I wanted to share with you this recipe and a little bit of history about soul cakes. I just don't want to talk into the fucking food. The Samhain can be traced back to the 9th century in Irish history. During the 16th century, poor people in the British Isles would go to wealthy people's houses and ask for food, shelter, warmth, anything, because it's nearly fucking winter in Europe. And in exchange for those comforts and necessities to survive, they would offer to pray for deceased loved ones. Over time, this became a tradition to make what is now known as soul cakes to those poor people in order to say thank you. The wealthy people would prepare these soul cakes and exchange them for prayers for their deceased loved ones. I'm sure some of those poor people were fucking scamming that system, and I can't blame them. I don't blame any poor person for scamming any system, to be honest. Originally, this was a pagan concept, and of course the Catholic Church had to get their grubby fucking hands all over it, and now it is known as All Souls Day. The adaptation and the theft of Catholicism, pretty much in a Catholic family, if somebody fucks up and sins and dies, they're in purgatory just floating around in space, and now their loved ones are taking this stolen concept and making soul cakes hoping that they'll be okay, because it seems to be the solution for a lot of things with Catholicism. No fucking hate to Catholics, but it's like you can go murder, be deceitful, fuck your neighbor's wife, all of this shit, and then all you do is fucking pray to a priest and make a soul cake and you're fine. So I wish life was that simple. But in all honesty, I really just don't, I don't hate Catholic people, obviously. I don't like the Catholic Church at all. But now with commercialization, we have Halloween and we go around and trick-or-treat in exchange for sweets and treats and pencils and hopefully not fucking celery and toothbrushes. I don't know, toothbrushes can come in handy though. The problem that I kind of face here in Australia, being an American, is people don't like America. Rightfully so, because we aren't a fucking country. We're a business. We don't have a culture in America. We have a fucking business, consumerism, commercialization culture, or sub-genre of a culture. We take things from other people and bastardize the fuck out of them and then make it a sale. Everything is celebrated as a simple excuse to spend money and sell things. So I understand from one aspect of why people here hate Halloween, because first of all, it's the fucking boomers that hate Halloween here, but secondly, it gets really nauseating when this time of year and you're out and about and people obviously can tell that I'm American by how I speak, and they go on a tangent about Halloween and how I'm fucking everything up. And look, I don't give a fuck. Like, fuck Black Friday. Get all this other shit out of here, because that's one thing I don't understand is people really shit on Halloween here. It's very divided. There's people that wanted to go trick-or-treating their entire childhood because everybody else in the world got to in the 90s and the early 2000s. But people here are really behind the times, and there's this struggle because they don't want to be like Big Brother America, and they've got this kind of insecure complex about it. But at the same time, they support things like Black Friday and Cyber Mondays and all of this stupid bullshit, because I've seen it turn into that over the course of nearly 6 years living here. When I first got here, it was a fresh of breath air. There was no Valentine's shit out in December. You know, it was like one small kiosk with a couple of kind goodies and chocolates and confections and stuff, and that's fucking should be it, in my opinion. Now it's starting to just vomit all of these like holidays. And Halloween is kind of one of them, but I really love Halloween. It's my favorite holiday, and it's my kids' favorite holiday, and my two little ones who are Australian are definitely going to get that concept of their American mom, because everything else can go right out the fucking window. But honestly, outside of a couple pumpkin buckets and some treats to pass out to little ones who are dressed and festive, even though it's at the end of spring here, as well as I mentioned before, people in the Southern Hemisphere celebrate Beltane right now. I can't relate for a lot of reasons, and it sounds really, uppity, And it's not trying to be like that. I've definitely tried to adapt, and I've definitely had to pivot the different types of seasons here. But the First Nations people did not celebrate the seasons the same fucking way as people in Europe did. You know, so it's sometimes, I understand, but it just feels like it's still off. I don't know how to explain it. It's probably all in my head. I'm probably wrong, and I'm fine with that. But back to the soul cakes. There are many preparations for soul cakes. You can make them in a shortbread fashion. You can simply make them into a sugar cookie. This is just pretty much like a standard white sugar biscuit. And I'm gonna have one with my tea. See? No more purgatory. I'm not going to hell. It's fucking fixed. All I needed to do was eat a cookie. It's fucking easy to be a Catholic. Just do a bunch of shit. Do whatever you want, and then just say I'm sorry and eat a cookie. Boom, you're fucking in. These soul cakes are very easy to prepare. I'll leave the recipe in the description alone. It's pretty standard. Sift all of your dry ingredients together, whisk all of your wet ingredients, and fucking combine them. The dough is gonna feel slightly crumbly. Please don't add in extra stuff. It will come together. When a dough is slightly crumbly, it gives that sort of shortbread texture, if you will. So all you're gonna do is form it into a disc and then wrap it in cling wrap and then pop it into your fridge. The reason why we form biscuit or cookie dough into a disc is because it's gonna be a lot easier to roll out, and it will thaw out to the temperature it needs to be much quicker than if you were to ball it up and then just throw it in the fucking freezer. I've seen everything, you guys. You can also make this ahead of time if you have other festivities that you're preparing for, and freeze your dough. It'll freeze for up to 6 months, but if you're planning on making soul cake 6 months in advance, you need to get some other shit to do. Traditionally, you would add currants, sultanas, or raisins, but I'm using wild dry blueberries because that's what I have on hand. I don't think these are wild though. Celebrating the seasons these days, it's great to stay in tradition, but I think it's really also important to adapt and add your own flair to things for your family and your own traditions. I'm not talking about bastardizing everything and calling it Taco Tuesday. What I simply mean is that people used what they had on hand. It wasn't as convenient as it is now to go to the store and get this and get that and honestly, it's not convenient now because the prices have my fucking bank in purgatory, so I might as well eat one of these for that too. Fuck. There are a lot of traditions. So there are a ton of traditions that are associated with, but all in all, on Samhain, it is a time of year for me to just honor spirit. I don't like asking for anything. I love to be festive and celebrate. The kids and I made ghost cookies yesterday, but I like to have handmade holidays these days. I used to go and buy a bunch of super stuff. I would go to like fucking Pottery Barn and buy shit for Halloween. I'm not even kidding. And it was lovely. I love to decorate and I love to celebrate. So I was like that bitch in my 20s that wanted like these big dinner parties, even though I had no fucking friends or nobody gave a shit. And I would make everything and buy all of these fancy things, right? But nowadays I make things predominantly. I love making decorations and handmade stuff like all of us do. And I think that's what's important. So if you're making these soul cakes and you decide to add them into your tradition for your family, it's a very simple way to look forward to something for that time of year. I don't believe in making shit all year long. And that's one thing I want to fight with Australian boomers now, is because they don't have a problem with the hot cross buns being year round. I will make hot cross buns when the time is appropriate. Sorry, on TikTok, I'm not gonna say I've been getting harassed because I'm the one that opens my big mouth and invites that fucking drama in at times, but I've definitely been having some interesting comments about Australia and Halloween. I get it, but at the same time, the rest of the world celebrates Halloween and you don't have to go overboard and buy a bunch of junk. One thing that I don't know off the top of my head is the origin of the crisscross that we have on the soul cakes. I didn't even bother looking this up, but I would assume that was an adaptation from the Catholic Church. In all seriousness, I have nothing against Catholic people. I grew up around Catholicism. I understand it's a very magical practice, whether people want to believe that or not, but a lot of the traditions were stolen from paganism and different concepts and origins throughout history. That's why the Vatican has a lot of codexes that you can't access. And if you are an astral traveler, which I am an astral traveler, and I can't stand the astral community because they say a bunch of stupid fucking corny shit, one thing that they're right about is you have no chance of getting into the Vatican. There's no astral war, there's no galactic alliance, but you definitely cannot get into the fucking Vatican because I've tried. And I've tried to see if you can't even get into Vatican City. If you do get deep into certain planetary magic, you'll see a lot of correlations with Catholicism. So like I have this chip on my shoulder, and that chip of my shoulder is just feeding that entity more energy, to be honest. So when I'm talking shit about Catholics, it's not about Catholic people. A lot of people just don't know what their religion is. They're too afraid to research that because of religious brainwashing. It's traumatic. It's really traumatic for a lot of people, I can imagine. So all in all though, I really hope that you guys have a wonderful Samhain season. And like I said, even though it is Beltane here in the Southern Hemisphere, it just always feels like it's kind of just thrown in like, yeah, we're gonna celebrate the opposite because it's the season, and it just doesn't feel right. I respect that witches and Wiccans in particular here do that. I think it's important. I think that being in the Southern Hemisphere has made me really feel thrown off course because, I mean, first of all, it's summer 9 months out of the year here, which I'm not complaining about because I really love sunny weather. And it's really stormy here, to be honest. But it just doesn't feel like it's not Samhain. I can't explain it. It just globally, the energy just feels like it's supposed to be Halloween. So I am happy that people here in Australia are celebrating more so. My energy is really high for the past 2 days as well. And I really need to do some grounding because tonight I'm just going to be honoring spirit. I have a lot of gratitude in my heart. And I'm just taking that time. So I'm going to be leaving some offerings for the deities that I work with. I made some candles as well. We made some enchanted black candles. And we're not asking for anything. It's just weird how everything comes into full circle. I am coming to the end of a lot of really heavy lessons that I worked with Lilith and Belial and Lucifer. I'm also making way for another deity that Hecate has been super fucking calling me for months now, and it's getting to the point where I can barely get any sleep some nights. So I had this huge experience last night that I'll save for another video, but all of this stuff is happening so fast. So right now, on this holiday, I feel just a lot of gratitude and closure and healing. So instead of asking for more, because I've done all of these amazing workings recently as well, and I've finished these lessons, I'm just going to take time and I'm going to connect with spirit and connect with the earth and connect with just the energy of this day. So I hope you guys all have a fabulous holiday, and please let me know in the comments below what you did to celebrate, whether it's low key, because that's definitely happened. You take the kids out trick-or-treating. Did you pass out snackies? Because I love to pass out snackies. You have a blessed holiday season, and I will see you guys very, very soon.